Canada's Drag Race Season 6 is now over, and I am very sad that it is done because I would have loved 2 more episodes with this group, but we are here at last. And I accurately predicted 3 out of 4 of the finalists. Pre-season, I predicted that Caramilk, Saltina, Ebony, and Sammy would be the top 4, with Van being a wild card that I wasn't entirely sure about. The rubric of Canada's Drag Race is that whoever wins the first challenge is almost always the winner of the season. Look at Venus or Virgo. They're gonna have to find a non-V winner next season. And even though I usually complain about predictability, I didn't expect Van to win because Drag Race doesn't typically crown villains. And I don't even think that Van is a villain in the way that y'all think they are. Even the way that they've packaged themselves in this finale. I think Van is a sickening drag queen, and I think that Drag Race has given this perception that queens are supposed to be this Mickey Mouse club, everybody gets along and has a good time vibe. So I wasn't expecting a Drag Race villain to win. And considering that the top 2 were my biases all season, I'm happy. Hi, hello everyone, my name is Jer, and every time I do this, y'all leave a bunch of comments, so I'm gonna keep doing it. I am at the end of the day at the whims of y'all's comments, and if that's what it takes to get y'all to comment, have more. We are talking about the finale of Canada's Drag Race Season 6, and before I get into this, I just want to say big congratulations to Van and to Ebony. I think either one of them could have won this finale, and I was so happy to see them be the top 2. They had a massive story this week that I think was fulfilling to watch, and no matter who won, I think we would have had good resolution as viewers, because their story has been building all season, from being friends to being annoyed with each other to being low-key kind of enemies for a minute and having resolution, and both of them getting to be together in the end. I enjoyed the narrative arc that happened. I said before in past videos that I wasn't totally sure if Van was on the radar of Canada's Drag Race production to win. She kind of got put on the back burner right around the time of the talk show challenge, and initially I had speculated that that was to foster talents of others in the room, because in my honest opinion, I think most of them hadn't emerged as potential winners. I think up until episode 3, Van was the one who I thought was the most likely to win the crown, followed very closely by either Velma or Saltina, based on what the edit was showing us. During that talk show challenge, Ebony started to rise up, and it was in the reading battles that she slammed her puss into the ground and emerged as the other frontrunner of the competition. And I think realistically, the 2 of them were the only viable winners. I thought maybe Saltina had a chance and that they were pushing her to the end, only to chop her at the last second. All of this in favor of 2 underdog players that they didn't put a lot of energy into in this last challenge. And for me, at the midpoint of the competition, it was always going to be Van and Ebony going to the finale and being the inevitable top 2. And I think it could have gone to either one of them, but as soon as Brooklyn said, "You did not come here to play to Van," I knew that it was a lock for her. There was quite literally 0 doubt in my mind that Van was going to win in that moment. The top of this episode peels back layers of these contestants as we see them get video messages from home. This gives them a little boost in their energy and reminds them of what they are competing for and what they're going back to. And we see that those video messages propel Van and Ebony in particular to give everything they've got. And the following day is where all of this tension starts to breach. Have you ever been annoyed with a good Judy to the point where you just wanted to make sure that they knew you were annoyed? You just want to get your jab in so that they understand that they've hurt you somehow. I think that's what Ebony did to Van, and it was kind of fierce because she got her lick in asking the room who their biggest competition was. She had already been picked by PM and Sammy as the biggest competition in the room. So when she turned to Sammy and said, "Well, I think in this moment you're my biggest competition," low-key was that moment that I think the 2 of them needed to break whatever was going on between them, because that pressed on Van's button and accelerated her into activation. In hindsight of recording this video, I can actually see how Ebony essentially set up a great story for the editors. The idea of this room not seeing Van as viable competition encourages her inevitable trajectory towards the crown. This feud does not last long, but is not done heating up. Tracy walks into the room this week looking like President Barbie, and I was living. She announces that the final maxi will be 2 tracks that they will have to record and perform on the main stage. They'll also do the traditional photo shoot with the previous winner. And it brings me so much joy that Canada's Drag Race celebrates its previous winner every finale. It is so important that Drag Race continues to uplift its former contestants, showcase them, and keep them in the eyes of the public. Because the way that the show runs now, as soon as a new cast is announced, everyone before you is then put on the back burner. The new girls are the ones with the gigs. So celebrating the past winner by bringing them in to let them have one final victory lap on the show, I think is very important. And I wish mainline seasons would do this and bring in the last winner to do something with the current girls. Virgo was looking sickening in this flame coat, but the edit was interesting in these photo shoots. And I commented on this last year, but I didn't take enough notes to form a proper tinfoil hat theory. I sort of just speculated that the amount of time that each queen has with the winner and the kind of questions that are lobbed at them might determine what will happen to them in these last few minutes of the episode. They show Virgo asking a lot of questions in Van's direction. They have this back and forth talking about how Van has the most challenge wins. Van then stacks herself up against Perla and Aurora, and that kind of sets up this idea that maybe she's not going to reach the end in the same way that the two of them didn't. I think this was retained in the edit to give another proper misdirect. Make us as the audience think, oh, she's gonna fall short by just a hair, like they did, and won't win. But then in their segments, PM and Ebony are both the ones who are initiating dialogue with Virgo. Virgo's not asking them the questions. They're the ones who are taking over the time. I can only speculate on why they're painted this way as the ones who are initiating the conversation. Maybe it's also to make them more of a narrator of the story rather than participants in it. PM shares that they've sent 4 queens home. Ebony shares that they've been eating up the competition. But then when we get to Sammy, the format changes yet again, because Virgo asks Sammy what winning the crown would mean to her. And this question I typically find is like a fluff question. It's something to fill out time in the episode. I immediately thought, I don't think this is the winner. And I just find that edit fascinating. What is it that they want us to see by not showing Virgo initiating conversation or questions with the other two? What are they trying to tell us with that? I can only speculate. And in the workroom, all of the competition frustration between Van and Ebony bubbles all the way out of the pot. This has been building up since the lip sync smackdown when Ebony saved Van using the beaver. Because the very next episode was a sewing challenge that Van promised to help Ebony with. The edit doesn't show us that Van is helping Ebony, even though we know that they did. Ebony is shown fuming with Van, and we get these little breadcrumbs that their scissor sister alliance is falling apart. There are cracks in the glass and it is about to shatter. And I speculated that because we didn't see everything everywhere all at once that was going on in this room, there was probably a lot that was cut out. But we see this tension continue to build up until this episode, where the two of them and their relationship doesn't seem as stable as it did in the first half of the season. And both of them were definitely activating each other. They do inevitably patch things up, they apologize for how they treated each other, and they address some of that frustration, and I can only assume that conversation was even longer than what we were shown. But I was so glad to see my divas patch things up because I did not need them fighting into the very last few minutes of the competition. I love that in rehearsals, Hollywood Jade was like, how much cleavage and body can I show without being shirtless on the runway? I am so here for it because that body is banging! I am a simple human being. Show me a little bit of masculine cleavage and I'm wiping my lips. Thank you for that, Hollywood Jade. On the runway, I loved Brooke in this eggplant color. I love the flourish of this collar. It was exciting and whimsical. I love all the stonework that's on the interior of that constructed bodice. Hated the hair though. I can't lie for a moment. It sort of looked like those Mickey Mouse waffles had fallen on the ground and then got run over by a semi-truck. But the front, that wisp of hair was a cute touch. I just wish the back was more of a beehive or a swirled effect. So we get to see the performance challenge. PM is doing bottoms up. I thought opening up with something weird this way comes was a cute start. They were very focused on the dancing, which I think they did an incredible job at. Their body was fluid as they moved through each segment of the dance, but I think the face was kind of disconnected. It looked almost like fear. Am I gonna get this right? Am I gonna do this next part correct? There was a hesitation to connect with the lines that I think PM got to in the last 5 seconds of it. Because with the vocal arrangement, I was expecting something more severe with the face. There were these moments where it gets crazy and manic in the lines, but PM's face is doing this. And I was expecting some extremity in the mouth movements, in the eyes, in just the general facial articulation. Van Gogh's song is called The Villain. We need a slaycation with Fierce and Xana and Van. Get them all together because that would be utter chaos. I want to know who the ultimate villain of Canada's Drag Race is. I love a Canada's Drag Race villain, don't I? Van's lyrics were sort of unique in the Drag Race sphere of lyric writing for that very reason, because it is all about being a villain. We get a lot of, oh, I'm a drag queen and I'm fierce and I'm sickening. But these lines were about their journey, about their status, about not being held back, but also not being afraid to be unapologetically real. That line, I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm kind of a bitch. Diva alert. It was like they were just casually talking. And that's an important trait to pull in a lip sync, is to make it look like you are doing it right then and there, that it's not just your mouth moving to words that were pre-recorded. Those are coming out of you. Van was super locked in with this choreo and blew me away. And if I'm being real, the last couple lip syncs that we saw of Van, both in week 1 and in the lip sync SmackDown, I kind of felt like Van was a little disconnected from the entire performance. And this time she was right there in the lyrics, in the movement, and all of it worked. Sammy is performing Hey Sammy Landry. I was obsessed with this line, 100,000 coins going in my bag. You girls are just bad at drag. That is one of my favorite lines of all time. I am sticking that in my Rolodex. She was having so much fun, and even if it wasn't technically perfect, it was so Sammy. I love that Sammy is unapologetically her. She never restrains. In that random challenge that they had to do with Carson near the beginning of the season where they were improving, Sammy went in and was just crazy and did her thing. Didn't try to be anybody else. Every single challenge, Sammy just presented her. That fearlessness to be authentic is something that is so refreshing for Drag Race, because so many girls come in and are canned. They're gonna play this character, they're gonna have these catchphrases, they're gonna do X, Y, and Z on the show. But Sammy's got that Katya energy. They just can't help being themselves. And I connect with that and I love it. Ebony is performing Rags to Riches. The line, with a mug this lethal, it'll end your life. I loved that. She was very fun to watch. It was hard to pull my attention away, and she had these cute boys that were dancing with her, and I wanted to look at them, but I was so locked in on Ebony. I've said it before and I'll say it again. She commands the room with her presence. She owns the stage in a way that not a lot of drag queens do, and she's got this charisma that pours out of her, and you cannot help but want to watch her, because I, as an audience member, feel safe with her performance. I have an extra light on, that's why it looks weird in here. I just realized. I'm like, why does everything look so yellow? And the runway theme is Coronation Eleganza, where we get to see all of the previous eliminated queens. This was a truncated runway. I kind of wanted a little more lingering. I had to go back and watch it 2 or 3 more times to get a full effect, and even then, I don't feel like I saw the full breadth of everything that they brought. Paolo is first. I love those flippers, very funny. This was essentially a garter of a dress, but it was so cute. Slay. Star Doll is wearing this beautiful white and gold tenno. It is giving elegance. Slay. Hazel. Okay, diva alert. This sort of ginger root shaped hair was fascinating. I love the cutouts. It kind of reminded me of the sewing challenge dress, but sort of an upscaled version of it, made for a finale. Slay. Dulce is out next. Let's go prom dress. Velma is next, looking sultry and opulent in leopard and pink. Stop! Slay. Maya is next, looking incredible in red. I love the structure of this dress. I could kind of see a character like Isabella Rossellini in it from Death Becomes Her. Max slay. Saltina is out next in this sort of heavenly look. I think it's a cool bookend to how opulent her introductory runway was, that dragon look. The scale was breathtaking. I love the color palette. The makeup was soft and ethereal. Slay. Caramilk was looking fierce in golden cerulean. She posted on Twitter a little more about the backstory of this look, and it made me love it even more. Max slay, this is diva. Then we get to see the finalists, where PM is first, doing a Rat King look. This is the best that PM has looked all season, and it's as a rat. These textures were luscious. I love the rhinestone brocade against all those matte grays. I think that made it pop that much more. This was cool color theory, because you wouldn't think these would work together, but they do. And that pearl lace that lined the outfit was everything to me. Proportionally, it was all perfect. It was a slay. Ebony is next. I love her in beige, which is normally such a flat and boring color, but the way that she wears it works. I love the cut of this dress. She found a way to serve down in such a neutral tone. It's simple, but that's not always bad, because she looks like an elegant but extremely expensive lounge singer. Slay. Sammy is next. I enjoy the humor of this look. Pink, black, cheetah are nuts, but I live for the way that she's presented it. And the nails on these gloves, please. This woman is so unwell and twisted, and I am so excited by it every time. Sammy has brought some classic bar drag to Drag Race, and I am here for it. Slay. Van is next, doing this play on Starry Night, and I gasped. The sort of play on an artist smock coming off was fun. I wish that I could have seen a little more of that, but the edit really just wanted to get through this quickly. I love how rich the silhouette was and the work that had been done on this dress. That had to have been hours and hours of stonework. Whoever did that had to have gone blind from the E6000 fumes. And capping the season with a Van Gogh reference after starting the season with a Van Gogh reference was brilliant, and it's a very good week to be a Van stan. Max slay. In Untucked, there's a bit more drama where Star shares that she felt a little betrayed and backstabbed by Van in the beginning of the season when she went home. But at the end of the day, it is a big compliment that Van thought, "You're competition and I want to get you out of here." Maybe it sucks that Star went home, and I do feel bad, but that's how you play the game. And this just gives her more fire to come back for either a Slation Royale or a Canada's Drag Race All-Stars or a Versus the World, where we will see so much more. And Hazel and Dulce get into it. Dulce wasn't even in the conversation, and she found a way to insert herself into it. When Hazel said, "Congratulations, but bookings won't be coming," whew, part of me feels like that conversation was getting so hot that producers were like, "Bro, get in there, get in there." But the conversation resolved itself by the time that she was walking in the workroom, because her showing up was so abnormal. But I did appreciate her presence there and helping soothe maybe some of their anxieties of integrating back into the real world for a bit while the show got edited and after the show had aired. Brooke very clearly cares about the long-term journey of these queens, and that always shows. And Mother Jaylene shows up to present Miss Congeniality looking stunner. I love Jaylene Time so much. She looked so good. Please bring her back for something. And Hazel is chosen as Miss Congeniality this season, which is so fierce when you look at it in context that they voted after that fight, that Hazel read the dog out of Dulce and then was voted by the room to be the congenial one. I think they lived for that moment and voted for her because she pushed back. I don't know, I'm only speculating. And Brooke announces that there will only be a top 2 and immediately cuts PM and Sammy. Ebony and Van were the only 2 options for me. As I said weeks ago, no one had really emerged as a viable winner. Not that PM and Sammy don't have winner energy, but their drag is just not quite there for what the expectations are for a Drag Race winner. All 4 of them have the personality of a winner, but Van and Ebony's aesthetics are more polished, they're more rounded. We can see a more distinct and clear point of view from them. Their brand is hammered out, and that's important for a winner. On top of the fact that they've both done very well. Van has showed consistency, Ebony has shown versatility, and neither one of them have bottomed as many times as Sammy or PM did. And track record does matter, even if the girls want to say it doesn't. Sammy and PM just need a little refinement, and when they come back for an All-Stars, they're gonna kill it. And even though this top 2 was a smidge expected, I don't mind, because they were the 1 and 2 from very early on for me. The lip sync song is a banger. It's Super Graphic Ultra Modern Girl by Chapel Roan. Do you hear that sound? That's the sound of puss slamming on the ground. Ebony clapping on that beat was peak. I loved her performance and how locked in she was to every moment, giving us the masterclass of Drag Race lip syncing that I always expect from her. And Van was surprising me with this lip sync. I was comparing it to that very first lip sync where I was watching Brooke more than I was watching Van, but I couldn't help but look for Van in the lip sync. Watch what their face was doing, watch what their body was doing, because they were giving variety and giving us a range of movements that they haven't shown in the last 2 lip syncs. And I appreciated that neither one of them were taking it easy on each other. Sometimes when we see friends lip sync against each other on Drag Race, you can see one of them take it easy on the other. They don't push it as hard. And neither one of them were holding back. They gave it their all. I have no idea how I would have judged this because I loved them both, but Van ultimately is the winner. I'm gooped. But also, yes! Van has shattered records by being the winner of this season, being the first in Canada's Drag Race to have 4 challenge wins, being the first person globally to win 3 of the exact same type of challenge in one season, and being the very first winner ever to never participate in the Snatch Game. Because even if you look back to BB's win in season 1 of Drag Race, there was no Snatch Game. She won the season. But BB did come back for All Stars 3 and did participate in the Snatch Game. So in a wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey kind of way, BB did participate in the Snatch Game, where Van never did. Regardless of how you feel about that win, it is impressive that that many records were shattered in one victory. However, I must give flowers where flowers are due because Ebony did the damn thing this season. She, I think, provided so much life to this competition, so much personality and humor and love. She has inspired fans to embrace who they are, own their space, to be confident in who they are. She should be damn proud of the work that she did because it was an incredible run to watch. No matter how anybody feels about this, I am happy that I accurately predicted the top 2 from the very beginning, because usually me standing someone and predicting they'll make it to the end is a kiss of death. Because last season, I thought it was gonna be Uma and Perla top 2, and I thought maybe there was a chance Michaela would be up there too, and then none of them won. We'll be continuing to cover Drag Race Season 18 throughout the weeks, but thank you so much for everyone who has been here week to week and has come to listen to my thoughts, listen to my opinions, and also share yours. Let me know what you thought about this finale in the comments below, and I will see y'all on the flip.